A little bit about arrays and what is an array and what would you use an array for. So let's say, we've talked about, if you had a chance to take our course, a little bit about data types, something about variables and how you hold information in a variable. And typically when you create a variable and you want to hold something, you may hold like a piece of information here, like someone's age or shoe size or something like that. Well, what if you wanted to hold an array of things? What if you had many things you wanted to hold and you want to give it one name? We hold a bunch of different pieces of information because that's all related. And that's kind of what an array allows you to do. It allows you to hold a number of different pieces of information in one data structure, if you will, in order to be able to use that in the way that you want to use it. So we're going to talk about that right now and give you an example of that. So I just have the main method here pulled up in Java, and I'm looking at, and I set up an array. And one thing to think about when you're doing an array and you want to structure an array, whatever data type you're going to use, whatever primitive data type, if it's going to be an int, or if you're going to, it might be a Boolean, or it might be a double, or in this case, we're talking about this object of string. You have to set up every element, each piece of your array has to be that same data type. So we'll walk through that in just a minute. I just want to let you know that you can't necessarily have a string and an int and a double all in the same array, but they're all going to, in this case, we're going to have a string. And we're using our example of basketball players. So let's say I wanted to have a data structure, an array that holds all the members or the team members of our team or the starting team members of our basketball team. So instead of putting individual variables for that, I want to put them all in one array. So what I've done here is I've declared this array and I'm setting up this calling it a string. And these little brackets here let the system know that this is going to be an array. So it's already telling the system and already telling the JVM, hey, this is going to be an array. And I named it team members. So right now all I've done is just declare it. That's all I've done just now. Right now I'm going to actually go ahead and create that array. And I'm going to use the team members that I've already kind of set up here. The equal sign, this assignment operator. And I'm going to use this new operator. So here's a string. So team members, new string. And I want my data structure or my array to hold five names, if you will, 5 people, because we're going to have 5 people starting on our team. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and assigned it to this variable, use this new operator, made it a string, and gave it how many items or elements are going to be in my array. And the individual elements of an array, well, that's what they're called. They're actually called elements. So the items that you have in your array, they're called elements. So right now, I have this team members. I've created this variable. I've used this new operator. I've made it a string data type. You just kind of going ahead and assigning it from where I've declared it up here, and I put 5 in it to let it know I'm going to have 5 names and I'm going to have 5 string items, if you will, in my array, and they're called elements. Now each element can be accessed. You can identify each element through an index. So even though I have 5 elements in my array, and right here I'm just putting the names of the people. So I have Derek Doe, Jace Doe, Harry Doe, Hank Doe, Gerald Doe. Just made up some names. These are the people on our starting 5 on a team. When you do this, I have 5 members. It only goes up to 4 because when you start with an array and you index it, you begin at 0. So you're going to start at 0. So 0 is your first one. 1 is your second, 2 is your third, 3 is your fourth, and 4 is your fifth. So that's something to think about. It gets kind of tricky like that when you're dealing with arrays. Just know that you're starting at 0 and you have to count that 0. So you're really going to be using the length of your array, that number 5 minus 1, as the actual index value for the last item in your array, if you will. So whatever the total number you have minus 1, it's going to be the last item in your array because you're going to start at 0. And so then what I'm going to do, what I've said here, for int I, I've gotten a for loop and I've initialized and created this variable I. I'm just going to call it just kind of our counter, if you will. So for int I is equal to 0, when I is less than the team member's length. So you can do this dot length as a way of pulling out the actual length of your array. And so it's going to be 5 as long as it's less than 5, because it's going to go to the index of 4. Go ahead and print out this message and iterate each time. So it's going to print out team member I, wherever it's on, it's going to start at 0, is a member of our starting team. So I just created this for loop to run through and print out the names of each of the people in our array. And let's say you wanted to do this. You might want to do this if you were starting a game and you are, you're the announcer or something, and you want to be able to spit out and print out who's going to be the starting members of a team. So that may change a little bit. Maybe it would just change it right here in your array and send that right out to the news people or send it right out to the announcers. And you can know who the starting members of the team are. Everybody in the world can know if you want for that game if they're interested. So this is a way to kind of put together team members and who's starting, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run right here and let it build and parse. And we'll pull it up in just a minute. And I'll make it bigger so you can see it. And so there you have it. Here you have our array, the team members that we have right here. and the for loop to kind of go through and print out all the members of the array. And Derek Doe is a member of our starting team. Jace Doe is, Harry Doe, Hank Doe, Gerald Doe. So this gives you right here, it printed out right to the screen, our array. It gives you exactly what our array is, right there as we expected it to be. So this is one of the ways you could use array, how it could be useful to you. And you can think of this in a number of different ways. I mean, there may be, maybe you want to have the points over a given game or any type of related information. You can see where an array might be very useful to you. So we're going to go ahead and talk about another example and a few more things as it relates to an array. But I want you to think about it because it's a certain type of data structure, something that you may use that may come in handy, just like you may use a variable or just like you may use an if statement or a for loop. An array is something that you may decide to use, and in this instance we decided to put the team members of our team in an array and be able to use that as we needed it.